This week I'm going to move on to another theme, which is flowers. So if you fancied doing something on a flower theme, and I thought I'd use watercolours, because one or two people were using watercolours this morning, so just to shake it up a little bit and do a different medium. I've got various photographs here, if you wanted to use any of the photos I'm using. So I've got flowers, also got things like blossom trees and bluebells. Brought in a few examples. I don't do a lot of flower painting myself. I quite often do sort of landscapes where there's some sort of flowers in there. So that's one of my blossom tree ones. And this one is one that I'm still actually working on a little bit.
Oh, that's nice.
I started that one a couple of weeks ago at St James Park in London.
Oh,
So it just needs a little bit more definition down here, and then that'll do
yeah.
the thing.
You
Yeah.
sat down doing that one?
Sorry?
You sat down while you're painting that
No, I stood up. Yeah.
one? Let's do that.
Yeah, I don't really sit down much.
Keep standing.
No, that's what I had in these sort of set up, a bit like this, not quite like that. So they're the sort of things I do with that. We go with the Southend Plein Air group. We're going to go to the cemetery on Sunday, Sutton Road Cemetery, because there's lovely blossom trees out there at the moment. So it would be a nice place to paint. Nice and quiet, hopefully. So.
What time are you going there?
We meet at 11 o'clock on Sunday. Yeah. So I think we're just meeting in the entrance, so which everybody's welcome to come along if you fancy a little bit of outdoor painting, sketching. I picked this one because I was looking through them. To be honest, they're quite complicated shapes. This morning's demo, I started a poppy, so that I think that was the first stage of it, and it would need more layers on the top. But I think the student who was working on that one has got the photo, so I won't carry that one. But I was thinking this one, it's probably about as simple as I could find. Looking there. I'm not going to tackle the whole lot, but if you wanted to tackle the whole lot, I would start by just trying roughing out almost like a shape that all of it's going to go into. So all the flowers would be perhaps that shape, and then the biggest one perhaps about here, and then from there you could then work into it. I'll do a slightly enlarged version of this one, so I'm thinking I'm going to work about here. And it's slightly wider than it is high. Perhaps that'll be about the widest bit. Once I've got that in, I tend to sketch in from the middle. I draw out from the middle quite often. So this one's got all these little bits here, which I'm not going to worry about in the drawing. I just want the middle there. I then just want the petal shapes. Something like this, drawing petals, if a flower like this, that particular petal, like the middle of that, is about that angle. So sometimes it can be helpful to just pop a line in where the middle of the petal is going to be, just to get things the right sort of angles. And I'm thinking that's probably a couple of times. Perhaps I want to come out to about here, and then I can then just take my time and follow the edges of the petal, and just use one single, what they call a contour line, just like a line that describes the shape. It flattens out a little bit there, and the curve tightens up a bit, and then straightens out a bit. So it's just trying to pay attention to the shapes that we're seeing. Once I've got one in, I can think, well, this one here, that's going to come at an angle. The end of that's going to be about there. The middle of it, probably an angle about like that. So again, I've got a few bits to aim at, really, a few marks to aim at. So I can take that curves around there, something like that. Then it kind of dips in a bit before it gets in the middle, and then turns round, then flattens off a little bit, and then it changes direction quite sharply and starts heading back to there. That's a bit like the character of that one. This one here is slightly twisting around, and probably fairly vertical in the middle of that one. So just following that shape. And again, I could look at the angle between the petals. It's coming down to here. That's a bit wider there, and then heading back. And then same sort of thing for the other two. I'll just very quickly sketch something in for those. And the middle's there. perhaps something like that for that one. And this one coming up here somewhere. But really, the more care you take, the better the result will be. And in time, you'll get used to sort of being able to vary the speed that you draw. Some bits you can draw quite quickly, other bits you'll slow down on. So perhaps a bit bigger for that. So that's a little bit on the sketching outside. Obviously, if you wanted a few leaves as well, you can pop a few of those in. Could do more, but in a way, if you're working with watercolours, I'd suggest just doing lots of little studies to start with. And then once you're confident that it's working, maybe put a few together. So that's that. And then, so painting this, it's kind of purpley pink. And with the pinks with watercolours, there's a couple of colours, like magenta is a very nice, strong purpley sort of pink. And there's also a colour called rose is a nice colour. So they're quite good ones to have in watercolours. I've got magenta, I don't think I've got a rose with me. This area here, I've got this pale yellow, and it almost sort of bleeds into the lighter colour. So I might just perhaps tackle one petal at a time. And I'll do this middle bit as well, and just pop a little bit of yellow in there. So it's very pale yellow. Now just dampen that with water, so I can just let the paint just move around that area. And the petal itself, actually I'm going to just dampen the area I want to paint into. Well, I've just done that, haven't I? And then just put a little bit of magenta in there. So this is a very strong sort of purpley red. Let's try a little bit, that's not too bad. So that's probably right. Just dry the brush a little bit and just move, kind of manipulate the paint a little bit while it's still wet. And then that should be okay from there. So just the same sort of thing for the other petals. Could probably paint that in one, paint all the pinks in one go really. This one here's got a slightly stronger shadow in there. But compared to what I was trying to paint this morning, which was a bit like that, it's a much more doable kind of image. So it's quite a good one to start with if you're not too practiced in watercolours. So again, it's a dampened area, and that will give me a nice soft edge. And then if I wanted a little bit darker, maybe just a bit stronger colour. So colour with less water in it. But really part of the art of watercolours is to keep it quite fresh looking. It's when you start to sort of overwork things that things get difficult. I think one of the hardest bits with this is going to be painting the background. So this was the challenge that Izzy's got in a minute for her painting. You might want to maybe not make it too solid, but you could paint it a little bit, get it a little bit wet where you want the paint to run, and then we can just get a dark. I mean, this is a black, maybe if there's a green here. Don't want to come out the tube. Good.
It's orange.
Right, okay, that's sort of green, but where that's very, very dark, but if you've got that against the pink, and if you're working into a wet area, it's not very wet actually, is it? Drying already. I'll rehydrate that area a little bit. And then just go in a bit dark again. So you can kind of have it sort of gradually fading out a little bit, so that it's not a solid background. But I think even just a little bit of contrast like that, this is going to pop out. But with this one, I'd wait for that to dry before I started putting darks in.
You've done that well stood up though.
Sorry?
You have done that quite well stood up though, getting it accurate because you know. I'm
Yeah,
wondering whether, but yeah, then those bits are a bit
they're
drippy. aren't they?
running down. So if you have, that was the other thing I forgot to mention is with watercolours, you're better off having it at a slight angle like that rather than vertical because it just runs down. But then, so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, well that's right. You can. You can almost like direct it.
Oh yeah.
You can move it around.
Trick.
So that can work really nicely. Sort of get the watercolour to go where you want. And yeah, so that's quite a good thing to play with.
Nice. And then you let it dry.
Key.
Let it dry with those puddles like that.
Yeah. Okay, right. I'll let you crack on.
Lovely. Lovely.